Welcome, directors. Today we're diving into a really crucial session, a vital exploration right into the heart of what makes performances dynamic, unforgettable. Our mission today is to cut through, the surface level stuff, the mere line delivery. We want to get into the raw, the visceral truth of how a character actually fights to win moment by moment. We're here to master the interconnected power of what we call beats and tactics. These are absolutely essential tools for shaping human behavior on stage and screen. This isn't just about understanding the script, it's about understanding the deep, often hidden drivers of human action when everything is truly on the line.
That's exactly right. At its very core, acting isn't really a performance in the traditional sense. It is fundamentally a battle. Every single character an actor embodies, every single presence you see on screen or stage is relentlessly fighting for something. Always. They're pursuing a specific, undeniable objective, and what breathes life into that objective, what makes it tangible and urgent under pressure. That's tactics. Tactics are the fundamental actions, the very weapons of survival that a character wields. They represent the character's strategic blueprint for navigating the scene's, let's face it, often tumultuous emotional landscape, for adapting to unexpected resistance, and for ultimately surviving, maybe even thriving. Without clear, active tactics, a performance just stays flat. It's like a mood board atmospheric, perhaps, but it's inert, lifeless. But infuse it with real tactical intention, and it transforms into a visceral, compelling fight. They are captivated by how a character strategizes, how they adapt in real time, and how relentlessly they pursue their deepest, most desperate needs. That pursuit, that unwavering fight, is precisely what electrifies a scene and makes it truly unforgettable.
So, let's unpack this concept of tactics then. For us as directors, how do we fundamentally define a tactic for our actors? How do we move beyond just understanding it to helping them truly embody it?
Right. A tactic at its most fundamental level is an active, playable verb. Always think. Verb. It is never a passive state. It's always a targeted behavior, meticulously designed to influence another person's thoughts, their emotions, or their actions. Imagine, the precision of a skilled surgeon or maybe a master strategist. Every single move is intentional, never random. It's always strategic. And without exception, it's deeply rooted in the character's core urgent need. It has to be. It is the precise behavioral instrument a character uses to make an impact on their world, to change something. Now, consider this. Tactics don't just appear out of thin air. They emerge directly in response to resistance. That resistance can be external, the opposition of another character, an unyielding situational obstacle, the environment itself pushing back.
Right, something outside them.
Exactly. Or it can be profoundly internal, a character's own fears, their self-doubt, their deeply held, often unconscious beliefs that stand defiantly in their own way.
Their own worst enemy, sometimes.
Precisely. Tactics are the engine driving the behavior. They're the exact strategy behind the character's every move to try and bend the world in their favor. Think of a character in, say, a desperate negotiation. Are they pushing, pulling, manipulating, protecting, seducing? Every single one of these actions is a distinct tactic tied directly to their objective, what they relentlessly want, and shaped, crucially, by the obstacle, what stands defiantly in their way. It is the character's active strategic response to that dynamic, undeniable tension between what they need and what's stopping them.
This sounds like it goes way beyond just showing an emotion like being angry or sad. It's about using that emotion with, real purpose.
You've absolutely hit on a critical distinction. It's one that often eludes even seasoned performers, honestly. Tactics are not passive reflections of emotion. They are strategic uses of feeling. That's the key difference. As directors, you must guide your actors past the trap of simply feeling angry or feeling sad. That's not enough. Instead, prompt them to ask, what are you actually doing with this anger? Are you using it to intimidate, to humiliate, to test boundaries, or perhaps to fiercely protect yourself or someone vulnerable?
So the anger becomes a tool.
Exactly. It's weaponized. Similarly, if a character is sad, are they using that sorrow to gain sympathy? To punish someone by making them feel butty? Or maybe to strategically surrender control? To appear helpless to achieve some hidden agenda? When an actor merely performs the feeling without a clear, defined tactic driving it, the emotion becomes, frankly, indulgent. It's what I call emotional wallpaper. It's present, it might create an atmosphere, sure, but is not active. It's not impactful.
Just background noise.
Precisely. It's just aesthetic noise. Intensity without a clear tactical intention is simply noise. It stays flat, static, lacking direction and tension. It ultimately makes the audience passive observers rather than active participants. They're watching, not feeling with the character. Conversely, a tactic played without genuine emotional connection, without that inner life feeling it, becomes mere manipulation. It feels hollow. It lacks the personal stake, the raw urgency that makes it believable and compelling. There's no lived-in reality, no authentic pulse to it.
You can see the wheels turning.
You can. The magic, the real power of performance lies in the profound and potent marriage of both, emotion and tactic. This fusion allows actors to truly weaponize feeling, transforming it into active, compelling strategy. And let's be absolutely clear, a well-chosen tactic is always a gamble. It carries significant inherent risk, always. It forces the actor to expose a part of themselves they might desperately wish to keep hidden. It invites potential rejection, retaliation, or even profound transformation. It's dangerous territory. It demands vulnerability or aggression, sometimes both in rapid succession, all in service of getting what the character desperately needs. When an actor commits fully, truly commits to a high-stakes tactic, their behavior becomes intensely charged, acutely focused, and undeniably alive. Their body, their eyes, every subtle shift in their being is shaped by this driving intent. You see it. They are not just existing in the scene. They are unequivocally in the fight. They're struggling. That total commitment, that embrace of risk is what makes a performance unforgettable, because you are watching a human being genuinely struggle to survive.
Okay, so to ground this in concrete terms for everyone listening, what are some of these active playable verbs that really embody true tactics, not just moods or feelings?
Yeah. Okay, let's list a few. Think about these as active strategies. To shame. This isn't just feeling ashamed yourself, but actively working to make someone else feel shame. Imagine a subtle, cutting remark designed to diminish another's dignity, or maybe a quiet, pointed glance that clearly says, you should be embarrassed by that. It's an action to seduce. Now, this goes beyond just sexual attraction. It's about drawing someone in, making them desire something you possess. It could be a solution, a secret, maybe just your approval. It involves charm, allure, implied promises. It's strategic pull to inspire. This is about uplifting, igniting hope or courage in another person. It's an active effort to instill belief, to make them see a path forward they couldn't see before.
Like a rallying cry.
Exactly. Or even a quiet, firm belief shared. To guilt. This is making another feel responsible for your suffering or for something they did in the past. It's a deliberate maneuver to manipulate their conscience, to get them to act out of that guilt, to intimidate. This involves asserting dominance, making another person feel small, afraid, or powerless. It can be done through a hard stare, a lowered voice, even just physically imposing presence. It's about creating fear.
Very primal.
Very. To comfort. This is about alleviating distress, soothing anxieties. It's an active attempt to bring solace, perhaps through a gentle touch, understanding words, or just a reassuring presence. You're actively trying to calm them. To distance. This is a strategic withdrawal, creating emotional or physical space. Why? Maybe to protect oneself, or to punish the other person, or simply to signal disinterest. It's not just feeling distant, it's the act of creating distance.
Pushing them away actively.
Precisely. To provoke. This is deliberately agitating someone, inciting a reaction, pushing their buttons, maybe to reveal their true nature, or to force a confrontation you need to happen. Each of these is an active choice, a behavioral strategy designed specifically to affect the other person and advance the character's objective. They are never static moods, they are dynamic, intentional actions.
That leads us perfectly into the concept of beats then. If tactics are those moment-to-moment actions, those weapons, what happens when a character's current weapon isn't working? How does that failure connect to the larger flow of the scene, to what we call beats?
Excellent question. A beat, fundamentally, is a shift in strategy. Think of it like that. It represents a crucial recalibration, a new attempt by the character to achieve what they desperately need. When a character's current approach, their current tactic, fails, or maybe it encounters significant unyielding resistance, they don't just pause for reflection or give up. That's not human survival. They pivot. They have to. This precise pivot to a different tactic marks the transition to a new beat. It's the character essentially saying, internally or externally, okay, that didn't work, now what? I need something else.
But it's not just changing things up for variety's sake.
Absolutely not. That's a common misconception. These beats are not arbitrary changes simply for variety. They are profound psychological defense mechanisms, triggered in real time by rising stakes and the urgent primal need to survive. The character adapts to the resistance by shifting their strategy. Maybe they try sweetening their tone to win favor after being harsh. Or they suddenly raise the stakes to apply more pressure because gentle persuasion failed. Maybe they lash out in desperation, or they start pleading for mercy.
Or even distract.
Yes, distracting their opponent with misdirection, or shutting down completely as a final, maybe desperate act of self-preservation. They must do something different because the cost of not getting what they want is simply too high to remain static. The character cannot afford to continue with an ineffective approach when their objective, their very survival in many cases, is on the line.
And watching these profound shifts, these pivots, must be incredibly revealing for an audience, right? It really makes the scene come alive.
It is intensely revealing. The succession of beats driven by these constantly evolving tactics reveals the character's deep psychological design, their emotional necessity. The audience gets captivated by how a character adapts in real time, how they turn on a dime, how they fight desperately to keep control, or how they finally, maybe tragically, surrender to connection or defeat. This constant recalibration, this relentless pursuit through changing means is what makes a scene unpredictable, dangerous, and utterly thrilling to watch.
You're on the edge of your seat.
Exactly. It's the dynamic ebb and flow of human survival unfolding right there, making them lean in, totally invested in every single shift. Imagine a character whose attempt at seduction, maybe towards a lover, suddenly shifts abruptly to cruelty. Why would that happen?
Yeah, why?
Well, perhaps because intimacy for that character feels inherently dangerous. Maybe it echoes past abandonment, a deep wound. So they would rather burn the bridge, destroy the connection, and be alone than risk needing someone who might ultimately leave them again. The cruelty becomes a defense, a preemptive strike against vulnerability.
Wow.
Or consider a character whose desperate pleading for forgiveness suddenly shifts to cold, icy detachment. Why the sudden withdrawal? Because being seen as needy, as desperate, activates a profound, unbearable shame within them. This shame, perhaps born from a childhood where vulnerability was punished or mocked, prompts the character to close up, to hide, to erect an impenetrable wall as a protective mechanism.
So these shifts are never random.
Never. This is a key insight for you as directors. These pivots are deeply rooted in the character's internal landscape. They are fueled by what the character cannot admit to themselves, what they're profoundly afraid to want, or what they are terrified will be taken from them if they show weakness or desire. They are not choices of convenience. They are choices born of survival, driven by deep, often unconscious psychological imperatives.
So we're really truly talking about behavior leading the way here. Rather than emotion simply existing for its own sake, it's all about how that emotion is used strategically.
Precisely. This is where performances truly distinguish themselves, where they become memorable or forgettable. When an actor simply performs the feeling, just shows sadness or anger, without a clear strategic intention behind it, the emotion becomes indulgent, self-absorbed. It's that emotional wallpaper I mentioned. It might be atmospheric, it might be present, but it is not active. It's not impactful.
It doesn't do anything to the other person.
Exactly. It's like a beautifully painted backdrop, but there's no play happening in front of it. Intensity without a clear tactical intention is simply noise. It stays flat and static, lacking direction, lacking tension. It ultimately makes the audience passive observers rather than active participants feeling the struggle in the scene. The audience might think, oh, that character's sad, but they don't feel the character's struggle, their investment, their fight. Conversely, a tactic played without genuine emotional connection becomes mere manipulation. It lacks the personal stake, the urgency that makes it believable and compelling for an audience. When an actor tries to intimidate without any real anger or fear fueling it underneath, it just looks like acting. It feels false. There's no lived-in reality, no authentic pulse to it. Crucially, no risk to the actor. The audience sees the technique, maybe admires it intellectually, but they don't feel the character's soul. The true power, the real magic in performance, lies in the profound marriage of both. You need both. It's about weaponizing feeling into strategy. That's the heart of it. When actors play a tactic, they use their emotion as a precise tool to achieve their objective. They transform grief into bait to elicit sympathy, maybe, or they channel raw anger into an instrument of domination to force compliance. This fusion ensures the behavior is not just seen, but deeply felt because it is charged, it's focused, and it is alive with undeniable intent. As directors, your paramount task is to train your actors to start merely performing emotion and to start relentlessly pursuing need. Ensure that they understand. Real people don't just feel emotion. They actively, strategically use them to get what they want to survive.
And those strategies, those tactics you mentioned, they're often born from a much deeper, more personal place, aren't they? It's not just about what's happening on the surface level of the immediate scene.
Indeed, and this is where the work truly deepens, where it gets really interesting and powerful. The most compelling tactics are not just simple reactions to plot points. They are profound collisions with personal wounds. They have history. They are deeply shaped by a character's fears, their unmet needs, their unresolved beliefs about themselves and the world. Tactics are often survival strategies, forged in the crucible of past trauma, serving as emotional armor when the truth cuts too close, when vulnerability feels just too dangerous to embrace. Consider this very carefully. A tactic is often chosen not merely because of what is happening overtly in the scene right now, but because of what the character cannot admit to themselves, what they are profoundly afraid to want, or what they are terrified will be taken from them if they dare to reach for it.
That hidden layer.
Exactly. This deep internal conflict is precisely what fuels the pivot, the shift, the beat. It's the engine of their adaptation, often driven by a subconscious need to protect a fragile inner self.
As directors, then, this is precisely where our probing questions become so essential. We need to go beyond just the words on the page.
Absolutely. You have to. As a director, you must probe these shifts to reveal the true soul of the character, the hidden drivers of their behavior. You need to ask your actors, what memory does this specific tactic protect them from? Is it maybe a moment of buried humiliation from their childhood? A sudden, unexpected goodbye that left them feeling abandoned? A time they reached out for help or connection and were met with crushing silence or worse, ridicule? Tactics very often exist to shield the actor and therefore the character from the pain of reliving such profound, defining wounds. The character uses the tactic like a shield, a barrier, a defense against re-experiencing that past agony.
So it's self-protection.
Deeply. What belief about themselves are they desperately trying to disprove by using this tactic right now? Are they fighting against an internal narrative, perhaps one that constantly whispers, I'm unworthy of love, or I always lose control, or maybe if they really knew the real me, they'd leave me? The tactic in this context becomes an unconscious or sometimes even conscious tool to combat this destructive inner script, to prove it wrong, to escape its grip. They are essentially trying to rewrite their own internal story through external action.
Fighting their own demons through the scene partner.
In a way, yes. What do they actually gain if the tactic fails and they can instead blame someone else for the loss? This is a subtle but incredibly powerful insight. Sometimes, paradoxically, a failed tactic is safer for the character than a successful one. If a character attempts, say, to connect genuinely and is rejected, it allows them to retreat into a familiar, maybe even comfortable narrative. See, I knew it. I knew I'd lose. I'm just not worthy of connection. This failure protects them from the truly dangerous feeling of hope, because hope for some characters based on their past can be the most terrifying thing of all. It makes them vulnerable to even deeper pain if it's crushed again. This is a crucial insight for you. These tactical shifts are profoundly psychological defense mechanisms triggered in real time by rising stakes. Decoding them, understanding the why behind the shift, allows you not just to guide a performance, but to reveal the very soul, the core truth of the character, making their actions deeply human, relatable, and compelling.
Okay, so if we understand what makes a beat strong, that connection to need, that strategic shift, what are the red flags? How do we spot a weak beat developing in a scene, and what does it tell us about the actor's choices, or perhaps lack thereof?
Right. When a scene feels stuck, when it's just not moving forward, when energy drains out of it, the solution is almost never more emotion. That usually makes it worse. The solution is always better, more active, more specific behavior. Intensity without clear intention is simply noise. It's just volume without direction.
Like turning up static.
Exactly. It's like turning up the volume without changing the song. If an actor's choices aren't actively affecting their scene partner, if their strategy isn't evolving, if they are stuck in one emotional gear, it clearly indicates that the tactic isn't working or, more likely, hasn't changed when it needed to. And when that happens, the scene will inevitably stall. It loses its momentum, its tension, and ultimately the audience's engagement. They check out. As directors, your core question should not be, are they feeling enough? That's often misleading. Instead, strip it back to the fundamentals and ask yourself, are they doing something different to win? Is the behavior changing in response to resistance? Behavior is the definitive map to intention. It tells you immediately if the objective is still alive, if the character is still actively fighting, or if the actor has perhaps dropped it entirely and is merely presenting a mood and emotional display rather than pursuing an active goal.
And what are the common signs, the specific things we should be looking for, listening for, to identify these weak beats as they happen?
Okay, look for these common telling signs of weak beats. Emotional repetition. This is the actor playing angry for 5 pages without any discernible shift in their tactical approach. The anger might be intense, sure, but it's static. It doesn't go anywhere. If the anger doesn't transform from, say, initially trying to shame the other person, to then maybe to threaten them, and perhaps finally to plead as a last resort when nothing else works, the scene remains static. It utterly lacks progression.
Just hitting the same note again and again.
Exactly. It's like watching a single powerful note being played over and over without ever forming a melody. The audience becomes numb to the emotion after a while. Generalized behavior. The actor appears, sad or hurt, but their behavior isn't actively doing anything with that feeling. It's passive. They are not using the sadness strategically to seduce sympathy or to punish their scene partner with guilt or maybe to gain attention through their suffering. Without a clear active tactic, the emotion becomes that emotional wallpaper we talked about. It's atmospheric, yes, but it's not active or impactful. It's just a feeling being displayed, not a feeling being wielded as a tool.
It doesn't land on the other character.
Precisely. Energy collapse. You see the actor kind of give up mid-scene, or they repeat the same emotional gesture, but with diminishing returns each time. The energy just drains out. There is no progression, no real consequence felt from their actions. This typically happens when the character stops pursuing the objective and simply starts performing how they'd feel about not getting it, rather than continuing to fight for it with renewed vigor or a different approach. The fight has gone out of them, and consequently, it goes out of the scene.
They've given up the goal.
They have. They've surrendered the fight. Unmotivated or mechanical transitions. You see beat transitions happening suddenly without any apparent internal cause or logical necessity driving them. They feel like choices made purely for variety, like the actor thought, oh, I should do something different now, rather than being strategic shifts driven by a tactics failure and escalation of stakes, or the opening of a new tactical possibility presented by the scene partner. These shifts must reflect a deliberate change in strategy based on the circumstances. They can't just be stylistic choices that feel arbitrary or confusing to the audience. This is a crucial insight for you. When tactics are clear, specific, and motivated, beats don't just live. They breathe, they react, they evolve. They carry the electrifying charge of discovery. But vague or unmotivated tactics inevitably lead to weak beats, turning the scene into mere aesthetic noise and the audience into passive, disconnected observers. Clear tactics give the scene a palpable pulse. Vague ones put it to sleep.
It sounds like even the most seasoned actors can fall into these behavioral traps sometimes, can't they? What are some of the most common tactic pitfalls that we, as directors, really need to be vigilant about watching out for?
Oh, they absolutely can, regardless of their experience or talent. The seduction of comfort is incredibly powerful, and it manifests in many subtle ways on set or in rehearsal. Strong emotion itself can be seductive, It makes an actor feel like they're doing something significant, and tactical repetition is just deceptively easy. It requires less imagination, less vulnerability, less risk.
The path of least resistance.
Exactly. Actors may cling to what feels right subjectively or what initially got a reaction from their scene partner, even if that choice isn't truly helping them win the scene or serve the character's objective anymore. They might mistake intensity for intention, believing that just being loud or forceful equates to being tactical. It doesn't. Or they'll default to old habits. Familiar gestures, polished vocal cadences that feel safe and practiced, but critically don't cost anything, emotionally or psychologically. There's no real exposure. Your paramount role as a director is to shake actors out of these unproductive loops and demand genuine, risky behavioral shifts. Here are the core pitfalls to really watch for. Pitfall 1. Performing feelings instead of strategy. This is arguably the most fundamental mistake, the one that drains scenes of their true urgency in life. Actors perform the feeling. They show us angry or sad. They indicate happy or afraid. Instead of playing a strategic action that uses that feeling as fuel, they are displaying, not doing.
Showing versus doing.
Precisely. For example, instead of playing to dominate with their anger or to gain sympathy with their sadness, they simply are angry or are sad. It's a state, not an action. When actors play the emotion itself, they get stuck in the feeling and lose sight of the objective. They become absorbed in their internal state, not actively impacting their scene partner or the situation. When they play the tactic, they weaponize that feeling, make it active and outward focused, designed to get a specific response. I cannot emphasize this enough. Emotion without a tactic is indulgence. It's self-absorbed, internal. A tactic without emotion is manipulation. It's empty technique, hollow. The magic, the truth, is in the powerful marriage of both. You must fuse the emotion with the tactical drive. Pitfall 2. Repeating the same tactic when it's clearly not working. Real people adjust under pressure. Characters absolutely must too for us to believe them. Imagine an actor playing a character trying to persuade their estranged father, let's say, to lend them money for a crucial business venture. It's high stakes. For 5 minutes, the actor is relentlessly charming and appealing, smiling, making light jokes, trying to win him over with pleasantness. But the father's inherent obstacle is his ingrained skepticism. Perhaps his fear of being taken advantage of, again, based on past experiences, his history of disappointments with this child.
The charm isn't breaking through.
Exactly. The scene grinds to a halt because the charm tactic isn't changing the father's resistance one bit. The character needs to pivot. Maybe they need to shift to guilt the father with stories of hardship and family responsibility. Or maybe to threaten exposing a painful family secret if he refuses. Or even to humble themselves completely, pleading from a place of genuine, raw desperation. If an actor keeps using an ineffective tactic when their scene partner is clearly not responding, they're not adapting. They are, in effect, hiding from the scene's reality, from the conflict. When stakes rise, tactics must evolve. Repeating what doesn't work makes the character look passive, or worse, foolishly manipulative, instead of desperate and actively fighting for their objective. It breaks the illusion of a living, breathing human being in pursuit. Pitfall 3. Choosing a tactic that contradicts the stakes. A tactic must accurately reflect the emotional reality and the urgency of the scene. It has to feel appropriate to the situation. If a character's entire world is collapsing, say they've just lost a child, or their lifelong career is in ruins, and the actor tries to soothe their scene partner with gentle platitudes or reassurances,
It would feel incredibly false.
it typically contradicts the profound level of urgency and inner chaos the character would naturally be experiencing. Such a tactic would feel inauthentic, jarring. Unless, of course, to soothe is a deliberate, desperate strategy of denial, where the character is actively suppressing the overwhelming reality because they simply cannot cope with it at that moment. But even then, as the director, you must ensure the cost of that denial is crystal clear in the performance, that the character is actively working hard to soothe themselves or the other person, fighting against the internal storm, not just mindlessly doing it out of habit. The tactic must honor the emotional reality of the scene. It must never avoid it or diminish it. It must resonate with the true emotional pulse of that moment. Your correction as directors must always be to demand clearer, riskier, more personal tactics. Tactics that provoke actual change in the other character. Tactics that genuinely cost the actor something emotionally or psychologically. Remind them constantly. If the behavior isn't changing the other person in the scene, then it's not truly tactical, it's decorative. It's just window dressing. The audience doesn't need decoration. They need to watch a human being adapt under pressure, fighting tooth and nail for their needs. This means the actor must be willing to abandon what's comfortable, what's easy, what's working in a superficial way, in favor of what's dangerous, what's vulnerable, and the choice that might genuinely backfire and make things worse. That, and only that, is where true transformation happens in a performance. That's where an audience feels a profound, unforgettable connection.
Okay, so when we're actually in rehearsal, how do we actively guide our actors to implement these principles? How do we help them sharpen their strategy and really move away from those common pitfalls we just discussed?
Right. Great direction doesn't push for more feeling. Forget that note. It almost always sharpens strategy. It shifts the entire conversation away from the vague, how does this make you feel, to the much more active and useful, what are you doing with that feeling and why are you doing it to them specifically? It draws a straight, undeniable line from objective, what they want, to obstacle, what's in the way, to tactic, how they fight for it.
Making that connection explicit.
Absolutely explicit. This empowers the actor to play risk, to change their behavior actively in response to failure or resistance, and to live truly moment to moment in relentless pursuit of their objective. It makes the intention so charged, so rooted in absolute necessity, that the resulting behavior becomes almost inevitable. It has to happen. That's when acting transforms from performing into watching someone fight for their very survival, where every action, every breath is driven by an urgent purpose. When you're working with actors in rehearsal, move beyond general notes like more energy or feel it more. Ask these actionable, probing questions instead. What are you truly trying to do to them in this precise moment? Don't accept vague answers like be intense or connect. Push for the active verb. Are you trying to intimidate, seduce, punish, save? What's the action? If that particular tactic didn't work, if they didn't respond the way you needed them to, what are you trying next? What's your backup plan? What's your pivot? This forces them to think strategically, to anticipate the ebb and flow of resistance like a real fighter. How does your chosen tactic, this specific action you're playing right now, reflect what you're deeply afraid of in this scene or maybe in your character's entire life? This connects the external action directly to the internal wound, the inner obstacle, making the tactic personal, specific, and inherently risky for the actor.
Ties it to their vulnerability.
Precisely. Where exactly does the shift happen in this beat? Pinpoint it. And more importantly, why does it happen right there? What specific thing prompts that change in strategy? Identify the trigger, the word, the look, the silence, the exact moment the character realizes their old approach is failing and they need something new. And crucially, encourage risk. Push actors constantly to surprise themselves, not just emotionally, but profoundly, behaviorally. Have them explore the very extremes of human strategy, shifting from pleading desperately to threatening menacingly in a single heartbeat, from laughing uproariously to sobbing uncontrollably without a pause, from a feigned, cool indifference to a raw, devastating confession, from calculated seduction to biting, cruel dismissal.
Those big swings.
Those big and necessary swings. Each shift should be a direct, organic response to failure, to rising stakes, to genuine emotional danger. It should be a moment of desperate, utterly human adaptation. Encourage actors to make the other actor uncomfortable sometimes, to disrupt the expected rhythm of the scene, to win using a tactic they'd normally avoid in their own life, a choice that feels genuinely dangerous to them, that costs them something personal.
Got them off balance.
Exactly. Why? Because such bold, risky tactics create unpredictability. And unpredictability is what keeps the work alive, vibrant, dangerous, and compelling for an audience. The scene should feel like absolutely anything could happen at any moment, not because the actor is trying to be interesting or performative, but because the character is adapting in real time under immense pressure, fighting for their life or their objective with everything they have. Real people don't stick to one rigid game plan when the stakes are high. They pivot, they gamble, they swing wildly between connection and defense, between love and rage. That's the magnificent, terrifying chaos of human behavior that audiences crave above all else. That's what they pay to see.
That's incredibly powerful guidance.
Yeah.
To really help us internalize this and put it into practice, do you have a specific practical exercise we can apply with our actors directly in rehearsal?
Absolutely. Let's consider a highly effective rehearsal exercise. Let's call it the 3-tactic run. Take a scene, or even just a small section of a scene, and focus intently on one key beat, perhaps a moment where the character needs to make a significant shift in their approach. Have the actor run this beat multiple times. But each time, ask them to try 3 radically different tactics. And crucially, ensure each one is rooted in a specific emotional history or inner wound relevant to the character. The goal here isn't just to vary the energy level or the volume, it's to fundamentally vary the strategy and the inherent stakes of the interaction each time.
So different approaches entirely.
Completely different strategic angles. For example, ask them to approach that beat once from a place of profound love and desperate tenderness. Then run it again from intense rage and a burning desire to destroy the other person or the situation. And finally, run it a 3rd time from a place of deep, hidden humiliation and an overwhelming need to disappear or shut down. As they run each version, push them to shift their behavior completely, their tone of voice, their eye contact or lack thereof, their physical proximity or distance with each distinct tactic. Make them fully commit to the action. Let them viscerally feel what it costs them emotionally and physically to commit fully to each approach. What happens in their body? What knots form? What emotional friction do they encounter internally? Then, after these initial runs, slow the process right down. Have them reflect. Ask them, what surprised you about your own behavior in each run? What scared you? What felt like a mask you were just putting on? And what felt like a genuine crack in your emotional armor, revealing something raw and unexpected underneath?
Okay, so they explore the different tactical options first.
Yes. Then you take it deeper, do it again, but elevate the stakes even further. This time, layer in an inner object. Ask them to speak the line or navigate the beat while intensely holding that object or the memory, the belief, the wound it represents firmly in their mind. This object acts as a powerful personal fuel source for the tactic. It makes it specific and deeply felt.
Like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Exactly. It ignites the personal connection. Then challenge them to pivot the tactic mid-beat, maybe even mid-line if possible, triggered by something the scene partner does or says, or by the intensity of holding that inner object. This transforms the exercise from just trying options into observing true psychological transformation in motion, driven by inner demons or desperate needs surfacing under pressure. So, for your first run in this layered exercise, the tactic might be, say, to convince using logical appeal, fueled by an inner object representing reason. For the second run, perhaps to manipulate using subtle deceit, fueled by an inner object representing past betrayal. And for the third run, dare them to choose to destroy, fueled by an inner object representing unbearable pain or humiliation, letting go of all restraint. Afterwards, engage in crucial questions for reflection. These questions are designed to reveal the core truth, the personal stake, the most potent choice. Which one of those runs made you truly nervous, physically nervous? Which one cracked something open inside you, made you feel genuinely exposed or vulnerable? Which one made you feel like you had something truly precious to lose if it failed, or something painful you desperately wanted to hide from the world?
Getting to the real risk.
Precisely. Did any tactic make you hesitate, even for a fraction of a second, before saying the line? Why do you think that hesitation occurred? As you committed to a specific tactic, did you feel a physical impulse maybe to back away, to speed up your speech, or even to hold your breath? What was that physical sensation telling you about the risk involved? The tactic that triggered that internal friction, that momentary hesitation, that gut-level sense of exposure, that feeling of having something vital to lose, that is likely the one that touched on a real wound, a real belief, a real memory for the actor. That is not just a moment of acting. It is a profound moment of exposure, a genuine act of vulnerability. And that, in all likelihood, is the tactic closest to the character's deepest truth. That's the tactic that truly belongs irrevocably, dangerously in the scene.
This entire session has been just a profound exploration, hasn't it? Right into the very heart of what makes a performance dynamic. It's so clear that tactics are far, far more than just choices an actor makes. They feel like the very essence of the character's struggle.
Indeed. If you distill it all down to its fundamental truth, directors remember this. Tactics are not decorations. They are not stylistic flourishes. They are weapons forged from desperation and desire. And beats are not simply stylistic choices for pacing. They are survival pivots, moment-to-moment adaptations in a high-stakes battle for what the character needs to survive. They are the footprints of the character's relentless pursuit, no matter the obstacle. Together, these two forces, clear, risky tactics and precise, motivated beats, are what keep the objective alive and breathing and what keep the performance absolutely electric. Understand this deeply, fundamentally. If a tactic isn't risky, it isn't real. If it doesn't demand vulnerability from the actor, if it doesn't threaten genuine emotional exposure, if it doesn't carry the very real possibility of a profound failure, it's just a pose. It's an empty gesture. It has no life. A tactic is only truly alive if it's dangerous, if it could profoundly backfire, if it makes the actor sweat because it's uncomfortably close to something they don't want to feel, something they'd rather keep hidden away. The tactic that might humiliate them, the one that might make them lose control, the one that might collapse the objective entirely and reveal a hidden, painful truth underneath, that's the one that ignites the room. That's the one that charges the scene with real, palpable, human consequence. So, as directors, this is your ultimate challenge to your actors every single day. What's the true personal cost of this tactic failing? What would you rather not reveal about yourself, your own vulnerabilities in this moment? Out of all the possible actions, what tactic scares you the absolute most to attempt right now? Make them fight smart, strategic, and focused. Yes, always rooted firmly in the objective. That's essential. But also make them fight messy, unpredictable, vulnerable, and profoundly risk-taking, especially in the face of resistance. But above all else, make them fight personally. This means the tactic they choose cannot just work on paper or sound interesting conceptually. It has to cost them something deep inside. It has to pull from their deepest pain, their most cherished memories, the most profound fears. It has to reveal something they'd much rather keep hidden from the world, even from themselves. When an actor's choices are this personal, every single beat matters intensely. Every single tactic becomes a dare, a tightrope walk without a net. They stop acting and start confronting their deepest truths through the character. And that, my colleagues, that is when the scene truly becomes electric. Not because it's polished or perfect, but because it's gloriously, terrifyingly, undeniably human.